was a normal Tuesday morning. Not really much was going on in the NBA. And all of a sudden, we see a tweet. Yes, it was your birthday. We see a tweet from Shams Charania that the Nuggets have fired head coach Michael Malone. Now, the Nuggets had just lost 4 straight games in horrid fashion. I mean, where do we want to start? I mean, you had the loss to Minnesota in double overtime. You lost to Indiana. I think that was like the final straw game. You lost to the Spurs. Just awful late game execution, awful defense, awful effort. All of that stuff was just insanely bad. So with only 3 games left until the playoffs, they're about to play their first game without Michael Malone in about an hour or two at the time of recording. So we'll see how that goes. But the Nuggets were not done because about 15, 20 minutes later, another tweet from Shams Charania popped up on the timeline that the Nuggets have fired general manager Calvin Booth, which, if that was the only move by itself, that would have caused massive uproar of happiness in Denver, Colorado. But yeah, basically through all the reports and everything we've seen, Michael Malone and Calvin Booth did not like each other. They did not see eye to eye on things. They definitely talked behind each other's backs. They couldn't really form one common goal. They didn't share the same philosophy, stuff like that. We thought the Nuggets would choose one or the other. And at the end of the day, they just decided, let's just get rid of both of them and start clean and start fresh. So Gio, you are the temporary Nuggets fan right now. Share your thoughts on this whole situation.
I really just don't understand right now. At a loss of words, but I'm kind of confused. Was it Calvin Booth that fired Malone? So it was the owners.
Josh Kroenke.
It was the
Josh Kroenke.
Josh Kroenke called both of them into his office.
I don't
and fired
understand that, though. Why would he fire both of them right before the playoffs, like right before?
I'll give you some.
And they're in decent standing,
No, not really. They could wind up in the play-in.
But they also could wind up with 3 seed?
4 seed, I think.
If they win out?
If they win out, they could potentially get 3, but they're more likely to fall anywhere from 4 to 7.
Okay, well.
And look, here's where I'll kind of bring some more context to the situation. So, had the Nuggets not won in 2023, they were planning on firing Michael Malone.
Yes.
They obviously win. Winning secures your job, right? It happened to Mike Budenholzer in 2021. Presumably that also happened with Steve Kerr in 2022, and it happened with Joe Mazzulla last year because, the way that 2023 was handled wasn't really the best of their ability. Obviously you have a heartbreaker in Game 7 last year, everything like that. This season's not going the way it was supposed to. He had every intention of firing both of them at the end of the season. Now, granted, after before All-Star break, they were on a heater, and then they went 7-13 in their last however many games. Things were starting to rapidly go downhill. And to think, if you fire it now, you expedite this process, maybe this kind of kicks you into a high gear. And, on one end, this could be a momentum changing move for the playoffs. Or if you lose in the first round, there's a perfect excuse in the book.
Also, everybody's contract that they fired expired at the end of the season.
Not Malone's.
He
just signed an extension last year.
All the assistants and Calvin Booth's contract. So it's kind of just do it now or wait till I guess the end of the season while they expire.
Yeah.
So I still don't understand the firing of Malone.
Yeah.
Because, from what I understand, Jokic, Murray, and pretty much the whole team actually likes Malone a lot.
Yeah.
Right? You have Jamal Murray thought that his time was up in Denver, but Michael Malone was like, "No, we're staying loyal to you, bro. Yeah. Even though you got injured, we're staying loyal." So Murray, his loyalties to Malone goes far. You know what I mean? And then same thing with Jokic. He showed up to where's he from? Serbia.
Yeah.
Showed up to Serbia, met his horse. What more can you ask from a coach? You know what I mean? He's like a brother to these guys.
Exactly. And this is why the NBA is a cutthroat business.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that's just what it is. And we can all agree, as great of a coach as Michael Malone is, the team, with the roster that Calvin Booth gave him, did not help. He didn't like him so much. It almost he took him down with him.
Yeah.
And look, there was nothing they could have done. Michael Malone did not want to play the young guys, which what Calvin Booth wanted to do, which is why they didn't re-sign Bruce Brown, which is why they didn't bring back Jeff Green, it's why they didn't bring back KCP.
Yep.
So, the team fizzled out. They're injury prone now. A lot of the guys got paid. They're chilling. And you saw it in the Indiana game on Sunday. The effort level was abysmal. It's clear that you lost the locker room. And as good of a coach as you are, as good of a personal relationship as you have with these guys, it's a decision that needed to be made. Unfortunately, the timing I agree with you. This was not the time to do this. But when you have Jokic having a visible meltdown on the sideline, that's something that Josh Kroenke saw. And I think it was Adam Morris who said it with DNVR Sports. Stan Kroenke was at the game, one of the games recently, and stayed for the whole time next to the bench. So there was clear evaluations going on. And lo and behold, this is what the results are. Based on the way the past week has gone, did you really think there was going to be a change for the playoffs? Based on the way Denver's been playing, they probably would have gotten swept.
Yeah.
Now, granted, we don't know what this is going to look like with David Adelman as the interim head coach, but, he's destined to be a head coach in this league. This now gives him an opportunity in the biggest moments to prove, do you have what it takes? Because if he leads Denver to the conference finals, I think they could work with him. But if they fizzle out in the first round in 4 or 5 games, then it's time for you to go to the drawing board and look for a new coach. And there's plenty of options available right now.
Yeah. You're throwing Adam into the fire a little bit. It's not really the right thing to do. I'm sure he knows Malone's system as the interim, being there for a long time, but on such short notice, throwing him to the fire in the playoffs is not ideal for any of them. But like you said, maybe he does take him to the conference finals, and that is the guy.
And he's going to run his own system because it's clear, the Nuggets were 20th in defensive rating this year in the NBA, and Jokic himself had expressed frustrations with the defensive schemes Malone was running. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, Calvin Booth didn't really put the right roster around him to do that with, but, at the end of the day, if David Adelman brings a better defensive scheme, which, doesn't leave the three-point line wide open, then there could be some sort of change like that. I think the Kroenkes instinctively knew that they were on a downward slope to a first-round exit. And you could still do that with David Adelman, but this now opens the door up to more of a turnaround because that new head coach honeymoon period will be in the playoffs.
Exactly. So it doesn't look as bad with Malone there. Now you have Adelman. It's kind of like, they had an interim head coach. They were bound to be
I
out.
understand that.
And next year is the year for them to really take off with whoever comes in.
Right.
But I still think that, Tyler, you're judging the Nuggets a little too harshly. You have to remember Jamal Murray has been out for pretty much the whole entire second half of the season.
Also,
right?
the last
That's
four.
the second best player. That's like having...
He's also still injured.
Yeah.
Right. And
Which
even when he plays, he's like half injured. But the thing is, if he plays... the Nuggets' chances of winning goes up dramatically.
Right.
Of course.
We know that.
Because the year he was fully healthy, they won a championship.
Yeah.
And then the last 4 years, it's been injury, and they've been out of the series in the second or third round.
Does that raise the question then that if they decided to do this now, Jamal Murray's still injured, and Michael Malone wasn't sure if he was going to be back for the playoffs?
Well, my guess is that he will be back for the playoffs.
I hope he is, but if he's not, then what do you do? Because if Jamal Murray's out for the rest of the season, for example, let's say he doesn't play in the first round. Let's say Michael Malone was still the coach.
Okay.
It would look way more harsh if you fired Malone at that point. I think if you're going to do it, you're going to do it now rather than, if you lose in the first round without your second best player, it's going to seem like, why did you do that? Like when the Bucks fired Mike Budenholzer, they didn't have Giannis that series. So
I still don't understand. Why would you fire him before the playoffs?
Well, they were going to fire him anyways.
Okay. Then why does it matter when you do it? I think it just makes more sense to let the playoffs play out.
I agree. I'm just trying to I'm trying to think of the mind of Josh Kroenke.
Yeah.
'Cause that's a decision he made.
Unfortunate decision, in my opinion.
It was a tough decision they had to make.
Yeah.
But, I guess what would you rather? Would you rather do this, or would you rather deal with a very toxic, heartbreaking exit in the playoffs that could be in any round? And, this essentially runs the risk of if you overachieve with this roster, let's say they get to the second round of the conference finals, this might be an incentive to keep him. Mm-hmm. And, like we said, winning cures all problems. We had no idea that there was a toxicity in the front office in Denver. We had no clue because this team was so good for so many years. And I think they wanted to be done with it and move on.
So Shams also just put out, I guess, a report not too long ago that once these firings were made, Jokic was informed immediately.
Yeah.
And all he said was, "I understand."
Really?
Yeah.
And that was it.
They weren't. I mean, I knew they weren't going to consult with Jokic because he doesn't really change that much. But I think he was clearly frustrated by the way the team was playing, and
Was he frustrated at the team or at Malone?
I think both.
It's everything, I think.
Probably both, yeah.
It's kind of.
Because look, I mean, if you look at all the superstars that have came and gone through the NBA, Jokic, as far as like current season, right? He's never played with an All-Star, All-NBA, or All-Defensive player, and that's something that a lot of these all-time greats were able to hang their hat on, right? Like guys like LeBron, guys like Jordan, guys like Durant, Steph. They all had, guys to alleviate pressure off of him. Jamal Murray hasn't been available much, right? And you got 2 good playoff runs out of him. And one of them yielded a championship, the other one yielded a conference finals. But Jamal Murray's just not on that level compared to.
He is a playoff riser.
He's a
Let's
playoff
make
riser,
that
yes,
clear.
but he's not an all-star. He's not an all-defensive.
Should be an all-star.
He should be an all-star, but then again, his regular season stats don't really warrant it. He's just good in the playoffs. But that's something that, the front office didn't really do. And I hope they decide to do that moving forward with this new chapter for them. But
Yeah. So you're hoping that the Nuggets move on from Jamal Murray?
no. I
Oh.
said get Jokic some all-star help.
Okay.
Get him an all-defensive player.
And does that mean getting rid of Jamal Murray? Does that mean getting rid of MPJ, Aaron Gordon?
They don't want to trade MPJ, so I'm a little confused on what they're going to do because you got to trade someone.
Right.
It's going to have to be MPJ. Like if you're going to go out and get a Kevin Durant, he is collateral.
That's what Anthony was saying.
Yeah, but I don't know if trading for Kevin Durant's the right thing. It's almost like it's so risky.
It is because it's an older player.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
This team needs
You
defenders.
need young players.
Like if the Nuggets had done this last season, do you realize how much easier of a time they would have had? Because you realize how low you could have gotten Dyson Daniels from New Orleans for a second round pick. Like imagine him on that team. That's the point of attack they needed.
Yeah, and letting
That'd be insane.
KCP go is kind of the biggest mistake in all of this.
Right, and
Can
that's
you
the
imagine
thing.
Brown and
Dyson Daniels. Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd
Like
be nice.
and even as far as like, not just the head coaches because obviously there were guys available, but like the 2 best assistant GMs on the market or the 2 best GM candidates on the market had gone by that point, right? Jeff Peterson went to Charlotte and Trajan Langdon went to Detroit. Now you're left in a situation where what does Denver do from here?
I wanted to talk about everyone saying Russ is the issue.
Russ is the big
Russ
problem.
there
is
was-
the scapegoat.
What
do we have to say?
There was one reason, like one of the factors for Malone going. A lot of people were upset that he was playing Russell Westbrook in clutch minutes over Jalen Pickett.
And what do you think about that? I want your opinion specifically.
So it's hard to talk right now after what Russ did this past week in the clutch in multiple games. So it's
Specifically that one game.
he did it against San Antonio as well. He didn't play great against Indiana either. Jalen Pickett he had like one really bad game in the fourth quarter, but he was a player I was very wrong about. I thought he wasn't an NBA player. He's a very decent role player. He's a good point guard, and he got a triple double the other day.
He's okay.
Yeah.
He just
And
passes the ball to
You have,
Jokic.
you have to watch
Yeah.
You have to watch Nuggets game where they're on ESPN tonight.
No, I watch Nuggets games. He's
He's a
okay. He
lot.
averages 2.3 points a game.
Well, it's because he didn't.
You know what I'm
That's
He's
'cause
not
he wasn't
getting
playing.
played.
He wasn't
Yeah,
playing.
he's not
Understandable.
Give
but
him the minutes and he'll show you. But my thing with Russ is that he just gets a little too carried away sometimes, and his play becomes super erratic, and it's all over the place. It leads to sloppy turnovers. I think there was a game he had like 6 turnovers in the first half or something like that. And like I said, Russ, there's like a line. He can't cross it.
people have been calling him the Grim Reaper. I'm like, oh my gosh, here come the memes. Like I
Well-
should have known it was coming. You know?
Well, I sent the tweet today in the group chat from Nick Wright saying that wherever Russ goes, people lose their jobs.
Which I think is a very invalid point because if you think about it, he went to a team in Los Angeles where the team was horribly constructed. Frank Vogel loses his job. It's not because of Russ.
He wasn't-
because the team was terrible.
He didn't coach Russ. It was Darvin Ham.
That was
Oh, Darvin Ham.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
but I saw a list that said Frank Vogel. I don't know why.
Well, he was fired after the 21 season. Then they traded for Russ.
Okay.
That was after
All
they
right. Well,
lost.
same thing with Darvin Ham.
Yeah, that was after they lost to Phoenix.
Right.
Yeah.
Russ was traded, and then I think Darvin Ham lasted one more season in LA and then got fired.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know because I'm trying to think because like he went to Houston after OKC, right?
Yeah, well, Utah and
Mike D'Antoni.
Washington.
Yeah, Mike D'Antoni.
He was done after that.
Yeah, he was done after
I mean,
that.
it was a terrible team. Nobody over 6'5" on the team.
Right, yeah. It was,
You know, like this is not because of Russ. Let's make that clear.
That's
Nick Wright.
true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nick Wright.
yeah.
We're calling you out, buddy.
Nick Wright.
Then he went to Washington.
Yeah.
He wasn't there.
Scott Brooks. I mean, you have Bradley Beal as your best player. Look at him now. You know what I'm saying?
But he averaged 32 that year.
He did average 32. We went to
Yeah.
the playoffs because of Russ carried them to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the team was full of young players, rookies, and it was just, not a team you expect to do
It
in
just
the playoffs.
seems like awful
It's not,
coincidence.
but it's not because of Russ. Let's
It's a
make that
coincidence.
clear.
It's a coincidence.
coincidence.
I'm not saying he's the reason. It's a coincidence. But I could tell you that
I feel like you.
I could tell you that Russ in the last week definitely was a deciding factor in doing it now.
That's true.
I think so.
Yeah.
Because if they win that game, because
Okay,
that
fair point.
double overtime game, that's a momentum killing loss.
Fair point.
Like as soon as they lost that game, they were done. Like I might not even pick them to get out of the first round.
Seriously. So this
We have
whole
to see,
thing
yeah.
changes
I need to see this week how the
our
draft
lists
goes.
that are going to come up in the next segment, all right?
I don't know. We're gonna have to find out.
Okay.
So
Well, yeah, our rankings are kind
Right,
of
our
weird
rankings
now.
are skewed now because
Yeah, but
Malone's
it's okay.
firing.
It's fine.
But yeah, and then as for Calvin Booth, deserved. I'm not gonna sit up here and try
not
and
a fan.
defend the guy. Bro hasn't made an in-season trade in 2 years. Fell asleep at the trade deadline during
Yep.
all off seasons.
Yep.
Congrats on drafting Christian Brown. It's really about all you did. Tim Connolly did all the work, and you just kind of took credit for it.
Yeah.
And a lot of the moves, the notable moves he's made was giving Dario Saric a 2-year deal. He obviously got Russell Westbrook. He traded. He dumped all 3 of the remaining second-round picks to get rid of Reggie Jackson.
Yes.
And tried to. He literally said in public he tried to trade Zeke Naji for Chris Boucher, and nothing could happen. So
That's so bogus.
yeah.
You could try. It's not that hard.